raining really heavily here for the last few days, and so much so that you can't actually be heard sometimes. I was with some friends yesterday, and when the rain was raining, you couldn't actually hear anything. So you're forced to pause. And I keep feeling like I'm getting messages in songs and also from the universe. And there's something that I wanted to go to, and I tried to go, and it was raining really heavily, and I walked there, and then it was cancelled because of the rain, and then I was trying to get back, and I couldn't cross the river because it was so high, and I just felt like there were all these blocks, maybe all these signs that perhaps sometimes what you need to do is just pause and rest. And the songs, the other day I was doing some energy work with somebody, and I have a playlist of songs that I really like, but I put it on shuffle, and I allow the universe to decide what messages we receive. And this message, or the words were, can you stop trying so hard and just feel the sunshine? And I think when the messages come through, they're not just for the other person. I feel like they're also for me and maybe for you. But the message, can you stop trying so hard and just feel the sunshine? So I feel that is about stop trying to get anywhere and stop trying to achieve, and just enjoy where you are and notice the beautiful things around you. And that doesn't have to be sunshine. You could be the sunshine. But yeah, just to stop pushing yourself and always trying and just pause for a moment. And there's so much power in the pause. And I say this quote a lot because it's one of my favorites, and I probably get it wrong, but Viktor Frankl, between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space is your power to choose how you respond, and in that choice lies your growth and your freedom. And I think I misquote it slightly, but the message is the same, that when something happens that triggers us and we react, that initial reaction is from our programming, from our past, from our genetics, from our DNA, from our life experiences. And actually when you pause and you allow time to pass before you react, then you can choose to react differently. And you can choose to react as the person you want to be, rather than from your conditioning, your subconscious. And when you do that, it's so powerful, particularly because, for example, if you feel like somebody's done you wrong and you're angry and you want to lash out, but then you pause and reflect and you realise that actually other people's actions are nothing to do with you, they're all to do with themselves. And your anger never achieves anything. All it does is make you feel angry. So somebody recently told me that I needed to get out of my comfort zone and then went on to describe how out of their comfort zone they were in their life. And it made me realise everything is perception. I feel like I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. I left a career, a relationship, a life. Currently I'm in a country where when I arrived I didn't speak the language and I didn't know anybody, and I don't have anything other than what I carry. And yeah, I feel like as well I keep moving, I keep changing, because for me that's where my growth is. And so when someone said you need to get out of your comfort zone, I reflected on that quite a lot, because I feel like I am, but obviously to other people maybe it doesn't look like I am. Maybe other people think that I'm just coasting through life. But I think that's true of everything. Like how we perceive other people and what their reality is wildly different. And I was speaking to somebody the other day doing some energy work and talking about, do you have a lot of money to fall back on? When you make these changes and blah 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 blah. And I had the safety net of a sabbatical. I had a job to go back to. I wasn't being paid while I was here, but I had a job to go back to. And I just decided that life wasn't for me. And I didn't know what I was going to do when I made that decision, but I just knew that I couldn't go back. So no. And then I mentioned the Rumi quote, as you walk the way appears, or as you walk the path appears, or Rumi didn't tell me directly, but what I believe it to be is one of those two things. And it's so true, because as you step into the life that you want to live, so for example, say I want to be a yoga teacher, but if I'm working as an anesthesiologist in a hospital, people aren't going to offer me opportunities to teach yoga. Whereas if I start teaching yoga, even as a side thing, then I start to open doors in that area, because then people know that I'm a yoga teacher and opportunities come. So I feel like, to a degree, that's that. And also, when you take that leap of faith to move into being more of kind of who you feel like you are in your soul, then you start to align with people that are on a similar path. And then again, that opens doors. So you don't know what's there until you start walking that path. If you stay in your comfort zone of your familiar surroundings and the same people, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the people that you're with, but if you stay in the same situation all the time, nothing changes in your life, then nothing changes. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And if you want stuff to change, then you have to start walking the path. That's how I feel anyway. And I'm not saying that the path is perfect and that the path is straight and easy, but there is a path. And we can all walk it. So that came up, and I'm trying to remember all of the things that came up. There's another one that was about staying in, keeping yourself small and worrying always about what other people think. And if you spend your whole life kind of making yourself small and not following your dreams and not following your heart to keep other people happy, then actually the only person who suffers is you. And when you start following your heart, then the people that love you support you doing that, I believe. Yeah, they don't have to understand. People don't have to understand the choices that you make in life and the path that you want to walk. They don't have to understand. When you stay in the familiar discomfort, and I know Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this, and many people actually, psychologically, that we have a tendency as humans to stay in the familiar, and the familiar can be completely horrendous and uncomfortable and awful, but it feels safer than stepping into the unknown, because our brains like to be able to predict. They like, even if it's rubbish, they like the familiar. So yeah. And then I was trying to explain, I had this dream or this vision a little while ago, and it was that the whole of the earth was covered by a mesh, and the mesh was the energy of the people on the planet Earth, and all kind of linked. Well, we are one. There's this illusion of separation and duality, but actually non-duality is real. We're all one. And sometimes I have this incredible feeling when I'm connecting with people energetically that we are the same person. We are just one, all one light, whatever. Anyway, so my vision of this mesh covering the planet was basically that if you shine your light, then that spreads across the planet and other people's lights start to shine. Not that you shine your light and other people's lights are subdued. It's by shining your light and vibrating higher and putting your good energy out into the world that actually helps other people to do the same thing. And we're so conditioned in the modern world to live in this state of fear, where we have to be scared of everything. We can't do anything. We can't leave our homes. We can't do anything. We just have to conform, and everything is driven by fear. And to step outside of that fear matrix, I call it the matrix, but like the matrix of fear, to step into actually who you are on a soul level is really liberating. Sometimes I get these messages through songs, and the song just stuck in my head, and then I find out another line in the song and it's even more of a message. And there's this song, Assez, Bella International, I won't sing it. And there's a line in it that said, "Ooh, leave got your ants." It didn't say that. They taught you silence keeps you safe, but silence only builds a cage. And that came up for me in an energy session, lots of energy work, and it was a message for both of us, and it's so true. You think that keeping quiet keeps you safe, but actually you're creating a cage for yourself. And if you want to stay in that cage, then fine. But if you want to break free from that cage, at some point in your life you have to say something. You have to speak your truth. And that can be terrifying. And a lot of us stay in the discomfort of the familiar because it's easier. You know, even if you're miserable and nothing feels right, there are so many reasons that keep you in that version of reality. And our brains are always looking for the familiar, even the familiar discomfort. And stepping out of that, speaking your truth and starting to walk your own path can be absolutely terrifying. I feel like I'm just listing all these quotes. Rumi, as you walk the way the path appears. I'm not sure who said, but on the other side of fear lies freedom. What's scarier, spending your entire life being miserable or taking a chance? Only you know the answer to that question. And I'm not ever for 1 second suggesting that anybody should do anything like what I'm doing, but just listen to your inner voice of guidance. And maybe it doesn't come across that I'm out of my comfort zone, but the last 2 years I've been pretty much entirely out of my comfort zone and loving it, kind of thriving in that. But I'd been stuck in the familiar discomfort for my entire life, just staying there because the idea of leaving, what would I do, where would I go, who am I? So I just stayed, treading water, ticking off the days. And then something shifted inside me and I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it. So I took a step. I started to walk the way, and as I started walking, the way appeared. And it sounds crazy, but so 2 years ago I couldn't for 1 second imagined that I would be here now, where I am now, doing what I'm doing now, and that I was working on a farm, milking goats, and so many things that I've done that I just could not have ever imagined that would be part of my life. And yeah, I've said this loads of times, that my biggest expense is travel and food. I don't eat out, buying food in the supermarket here is expensive, but I don't waste money. Money is energy, and I don't waste it. And I've been very lucky to do these volunteer programs where you volunteer and in exchange you get your accommodation. So I've been able to stay in these incredible places and I'm not paying for accommodation, which is just insane. I mean, obviously I give my time and my energy in exchange for that, but you know, just another way to live. Instead of earning the money and then paying it out to live somewhere, I just live somewhere. And the only thing, this is like the biggest thing, I think, we spend so much time, the royal we projecting, we spend so much time and energy worrying and stressing about other people, and the only thing we have any control over at the end of the day is ourselves. So control you. It's such a strange thing at the moment. There's a lot of things that I've been really compelled to share, and I've recorded stuff and I just haven't shared it. And now when I try and talk about things, I just can't, and I have this big block in my throat chakra. And I felt it. I went to a voice activation class through the weekend, and I feel it. I feel as much as people tell me that I can't sing, and whenever I've sung on anything, people say, oh, don't give up the day job. And I don't care. I feel that there's a voice inside me that needs to come out, and I feel it getting stuck there, but I know in my soul that I have a voice. And I don't know if anyone else relates to that, but I feel like singing is something I'm really meant to do, and I just need to get past this blockage. And the same with speaking. And then I was trying to speak earlier and I plugged my other headphones in, but the connection's really dodgy, and they weren't connected, and I was doing that because someone said that the sound wasn't great the other day and they couldn't hear me, and just all these things about throat chakra. Still getting past the fear of being heard, a bit where it comes from. They taught you silence keeps you safe, but silence only builds a cage. So this speaking, this that isn't really of interest to very many people, it doesn't matter, because it's about just being free to speak, to say what I want without being squashed down and without feeling that I have to catch myself. And I still do. There are still things that I'm really resistant to talk about, but that's okay. It's a process. I just want to try and encourage people who write negative stuff, and I just ignore them or block them or whatever it is you do on here. I've come off all other social media. I used to post all the time on Instagram, and then my whole life on Instagram, and I looked at my screen time today and my number one screen time app was Solitaire, because when I listen to stuff, sometimes I play Solitaire. Most of the time my phone's on airplane mode, you know, so it's so not interesting to anybody, but it's changed my life. I feel like I just walk, and I just walk. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I listen to the waves, sometimes I just watch the leaf dance. And all the animals, there's so many little animals. When you actually stop and look, there's so much beauty to see. And when you listen, there's so much to hear. Waves, the cicadas, it's just incredible. This place is just incredible. And walking this path has not been easy. And it's still not. There are some days still when I kind of think, what the fuck am I doing? Somebody said the other day they'd never heard me swear, which I was shocked about. I used to swear a lot. I used to love a good swear. But, it's not always necessary, I guess. Yeah, I used to. There are days when I just think, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then I look at where I am. I see a rainbow in the sky, and I just think, yeah. Anyway, that's enough for now. Have a wonderful day.